And if money is a tool, then this means you don't even need to use your own tool. So like if money is a tool, it's like a hammer, and I've got this nail that has to go into this wall. Hey, I don't have my own hammer. Hey, Simon, let me borrow your hammer. And then you give me your hammer and I can get the job done. So once I really fully started understanding that, like I don't need my own tool. If it's just a tool, I don't need my own tool. I can use anybody else's tool. Thank you. Welcome, blessed investors, to the AntiHustle podcast, where I, Nicole Purvy, am live documenting my journey of growing my revenue to $100,000 per month using spiritual weapons given to us by God. Let's get free. Did y'all know that at one time I had a podcast that was actually the top business podcast in the country? My podcast was voted one of the top business podcasts by Entrepreneur Magazine, 5 top business podcasts by Control Magazine. And I stopped doing this podcast. I used to have this podcast years ago. I started in 2015 and I stopped doing this podcast. I stopped doing this podcast because I almost kicked this guy off of my show. Actually, I almost kicked a couple people off my show. And at that point, I realized that it was not in my heart to do this podcast anymore. All right, I'm going to tell you all this story in a minute, but I just want to welcome you guys to the AntiHustle Show. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is the show where I'm live documenting the journey. Me, Nicole Purvy, I'm live documenting my journey of going from 40 grand a month to 100 grand a month, right in front of your eyes, documenting my journey using only spiritual weapons given to me by God. So welcome. This is episode 9 of the show. And on this show, we're going to talk about stories that sell. Okay. So let me frame all of this for you by continuing my story about my podcast. Okay. So I had like maybe 150 episodes of this podcast called the Better Than Success podcast, where I would interview entrepreneurs and real estate investors and just like have conversations with them. And one time this guy came, and I was a really good interviewer. I will say, I pat myself on the back. I was a really good interviewer. Okay. So one time this guy comes on the podcast and I'm recording it in a studio, and every question I'm asking, he's giving these canned responses with these canned stories that I've been hearing him tell on social media over and over and over again. Have you guys ever followed someone that you're like, how many times are they going to tell this same story over and over and over again? Let me know if you've ever come across an influencer and you're like, I'm tired of hearing this story. Like, shut up. Let me know in the chat, okay? So I didn't kick him off. I just really got through the interview, and I probably shouldn't even posted it because I just couldn't get anything out of him. He just kept telling these same boring stories that I heard online, and I was trying to ask him things that really allowed him to share some of his experience, some real experience, but he just wouldn't, okay? And so that's one of the reasons why I stopped doing the podcast. I kept coming after like maybe the first 100 episodes, 75 episodes or so. I kept coming across these people who would literally midway through the interview, I'll be like, this person is lying. This person is fake. This information that they're sharing is bogus. And it started getting to a point where I just didn't even want to talk to these people anymore, like at all. And so that's really kind of the issues that you run into when you're doing a podcast with interviews. You start running out of people with really good quality stuff to say, for real, okay? And also too, you remember, you're sitting down with all these entrepreneurs, learning from their mistakes. So you're getting this accelerated lesson in how to level up. So you're literally learning really quickly, okay? So you're kind of going past the level of a lot of your guests or the people that are available. Somebody say you got to vet them better. No, I'm telling you, it's hard. And I see it in some of the other popular podcasts where it's like, it's really, honestly, there is not an unlimited pool of successful, ethical entrepreneurs to draw from. It's not unlimited. I need you to understand that, okay? And they have to also be interesting. But let me get on to my point, right? So this person who had these stories, these canned stories, this is my least favorite interview. This person who had these canned stories, I now look back and I don't judge them so much for having these canned stories because I'm learning. I went over some books that I'm using to study to get better so that I can take my business to the next level. One thing I learned in this book, Expert Secrets, is you need to have a database of stories to tell for specific reasons to sell your products, okay? Or to sell whatever it is that you are selling. And the more stories you have, obviously, the better. So you're not boring people. Now, this person only had 3 stories. I've literally only had 3 stories. Even now, this person does really, really well. And I still hear the same stories over and over and over again. But if you're going to sell your product or your business, or you're going to take it to the next level, you need to have a database of stories that you draw from. And each story serves a different purpose. Okay. And so, all right. Well, before I go into the content for today, I do want to remind you guys that we do have a format on this show. I'm documenting this journey. The first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to talk about the thing that I worked on today in order to get me to 100 grand a month. Then the next thing we're going to talk about is we're going to go over the good deed for the day. Everybody on here, we're going to pledge that we're going to do one small good deed. This deed is a really small one, but it's really, really good. I'm excited about it. So I need you all to pledge on doing that. And then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to go over the scripture for the day. Okay. So again, back to this book and telling stories that sell. So one thing that's really, really effective, me naturally, before I even went on this journey, I've always been a storyteller. A lot of you who have joined the Better Than Success Real Estate League or bought any of my products is probably because of the story that I told. And so I innately have already always known to tell stories to uncover the value of a product. But one thing about this book is it's helping me to position and be more strategic about how I tell the stories. Okay? This is really important. So in this book, Russell talks about this book, Expert Secrets. Okay? Get it if you haven't. Russell talks about 4 different types of stories. Now it's about halfway through the book. I'm almost finished the book, but he gives you a lot of stuff that you're actually going to have to do some work on, like actually work. Like this book is a thick book already, but it comes with a lot of homework. So like if you really, really, really want to like learn from this book, it's probably going to take you like 3-4 months to actually learn it. And that's if you ain't got a job, okay? Because you're going to have to do a lot of work. So one of the exercises that I don't want to say I skipped over, I just kept reading. I knew I was going to come back to it. I did that exercise today. This is why we're talking about this. I did the exercise today and it was really, really helpful. So Russell talks about these 4 different types of stories that you're going to need to have. The first type of story is an origin story. The second type of story is the vehicle framework story, how you learned or earned your vehicle or framework, right? The thing that you're educating people on. Internal beliefs story, external belief story. Those are the 4 types of story. I'm going to explain them in just a minute, okay? Each of these stories have to have 4 components in order to use them to sell, right? Really, it's more components, but we're going to simplify this for today. Chains of false belief, the experience, the story, and an epiphany bridge. For each story, in order to sell your product, you're going to have to first explain where are your buyers, what are their chains of false belief that you're trying to break with this story. I'm going to give you all some examples, so it's going to make sense in a minute. Hey, real quick. If you love this episode, make sure you pick up a copy of my Christian-based business book, also called The AntiHustle, Unlocking the Secrets to Limitless Success Through Faith. Originally published in 2017, this is the revised edition with the exact spiritual principles and scriptures from the Bible I used to thrive as an entrepreneur back in 2017. And then after that, I used the same principles to grow a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio from $0 and build a $50,000 per month business to now on my way to $100,000 per month. Pick up your copy of The AntiHustle at theantihustlebook.com. What is the experience that they could have had that resulted in them having this false belief? What is the story that they wrote in their mind as a result of this experience? And what can you offer through telling a story, this new epiphany that helps them change their beliefs? So in order to really sell a product to someone, you're going to have to start changing the way that they think. And the way that they think is through these stories, right? You're going to change the way they think through these stories that you're going to tell. But you have to first position the story properly. First, you have to understand where they're coming from. What is their false belief that is standing in the way of them buying your product? That's the chains of false belief that they live under. What is the experience that they could have had that led them to this false belief? What is the story that they now tell themselves as a result of this experience? And lastly, what is the epiphany that you had? He calls it an epiphany bridge. The epiphany that you had that shatters that old story. So you've got these different components. And then remember, there's 4 types of stories. So for each of the 4 types of stories, you're going to have a couple different. I'm going to share some of mine. Hopefully this is all making sense to you. So what I did, right? Because there's the 4 different types of stories. There's the origin story. There is the vehicle framework story. There is the internal belief story. And there is the external belief story. For these 4 different types of stories, I don't want to be like homeboy that came on my podcast that only had 1 story. I literally just came up with 12 different stories that I'm going to have in my data bank to sell my products. And again, these are not things that I'm using to deceive people. These are all stories. These are really, honestly, I'm framing an aha moment around investing in real estate. Right? You're going to see in just a minute. It's going to make all the sense in the world. Okay. So hang out here. So I'll give you a perfect example, right? So I did this exercise from the book. So one of my first origin story, this is the frame that I'm going to put it in. Okay. The chain of false belief. Most people live inside of a false belief. Why they don't invest in real estate is because they think that they need to be super smart or a business genius to invest in real estate. And an experience that they may have had that made them think that is, you see most people you know who do real estate, they're super business savvy. They're well put together people. So you assume, hey, I need to be some sort of business genius to do real estate. And so the story that people tell themselves as a result of that is, I'm not business savvy or smart enough to invest in real estate. So therefore they don't even try it. So here is the epiphany bridge that helped me to shatter that false belief. Like I said, I had a podcast. I had over 150 interviews. Plus, as we're running the Better Than Success Real Estate League, we have a different real estate investor come and speak every single solitary week. So you can imagine I have literally sat down and interviewed in a formal setting over 500 real estate investors. Okay. And a couple of lessons I got after interviewing over 500 real estate investors. This is people that I'm not even talking about informal settings. Okay. One of the lessons that I got out of interviewing 500 people, listen to me closely, is that literally only about 10 of the people out of all 500 of them were actually smart. So what does this mean? This means you don't need to be smart or super business savvy to invest in real estate. They just understood a play and ran it. That's it. And it wasn't even some super complex play. So after interviewing all these people, I started getting an aha moment like, you don't need to be some business genius. You know, you look at the Forbes 500 or Fortune 500 list, and you see all these people who are successful in real estate, and it's like this person went to Harvard, this person went to Princeton, and then you put these people on a pedestal. And the reality is, I'm telling you, I sat down and talked to over 500 people, investors, and literally only 10 of them were actually smart. I mean that. I don't want to say their names because if you've been interviewed, I want you to hope that I'm talking about you. Maybe 20 of them, 20 of them. The other thing is the reason that business savvy and real estate investing go hand in hand is because they're two mutually exclusive things that actually overlap. The first reason is because real estate is not rocket science, but it's also not super intuitive. So when people are very, very good at real estate, they've done one of three things. They either study and read a lot, like a lot, probably more than you have time to do, or they went to school for it, they studied in some formal way, or they position themselves and plug themselves into a community where they literally subconsciously bathed in it. Like that's how I got good at real estate. I created a community for myself as a cheat. Like, no, I'm not going to sit here and read a whole bunch of books on it. No, I'm not going to school for it. Absolutely not. But what I will do is I created a community where I bathed in it. That's why we do so many real estate events within the Better Than Success Real Estate League. We literally have 5 events per week. Plus, you can watch recordings. Plus, we got a group chat that we communicate in all day, every day. Plus, we do 2 to 3 live events per month. So all you got to do is plug into the community, and it's a cheat versus spending years studying in school or reading. Okay. So do y'all see how I reframed in your mind about, hey, you need to be super smart or business savvy to invest in real estate? Y'all see that? Okay. Y'all want me to do another one? All right. So I'm going to go over another. Remember I said, that was one story that I just gave you. I gave you chains of false belief, the experiences that the person may have gone through to give them that chain of false belief, the new story that they tell in their mind, and then my epiphany bridge to help them rewrite the story in their mind. So that was just one set, okay? So I'm going to go over another one. Okay, here's another chain of false belief. I need to have a lot of money saved up to invest in real estate. This is something that keeps people from investing. They feel like I need to have a lot of money to invest in real estate. An experience that may have led them to feel that way or may have led you to feel that way is you think real estate works like every other product where you need to have the money for the item before you buy the item. So like, for instance, most products, okay, I have this book right here. In order for me to get this book, I have to have the money to buy it. And so you think that real estate works like normal products, where it's like you have to have the money to buy it. And I used to feel like that as well. Like, oh, I'm not going to invest in real estate. I don't have the money. That's most people's reasons why they're not investing in real estate. I don't have the money. And so the epiphany bridge, after bathing in real estate, being bathed in real estate through the Better Than Success Real Estate League, like literally spending all my time with real estate investors, spending a lot of time with them, I learned that money, I've really started understanding that money is a tool. And if money is a tool, then this means you don't even need your own money. You don't even need to use your own tool. So like if money is a tool, it's like a hammer, and I've got this nail that has to go into this wall. Hey, I don't have a hammer. I don't have my own hammer. Hey, Simon, let me borrow your hammer. And then you give me your hammer and I can get the job done. So once I really fully started understanding that, like I don't need my own tool. If it's just a tool, I don't need my own tool. I can use anybody else's tool. Thank you. But I knew it, but I didn't really understand it until I was around so many other investors that literally just treated money like it was, okay, here, we got members that loan each other money. all day, every day, all day, every day. And you start to understand like, oh, you don't need a lot of money. You just need to learn how to borrow somebody else's tool. That's it. Okay. Did that story convince you? Did it convince you to change your 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 bridge? All right. So I'm gonna give you another one. This is a good one. This is a good one that keeps people from investing in real estate. I need to know construction and be handy to invest in real estate. This is what keeps people from doing. I don't know construction. I'm not very handy. So I'm not going to buy real estate. So the experience that they may have had that leads them to this assumption is growing up, local real estate investors you knew were probably super handy. Like my mom's boyfriend, he owns real estate and he's super handy. He's walking around in overalls and whatever he be wearing. It'd be wild, but it'd be looking like he got done working. I'm not gonna say the D word. It don't look dirty, but it look like he been working. Okay. Or you see these investors on Instagram walking through rehabs. Like a lot of the investors, these gurus, they're touring their rehabs and they're dressed down or whatever. And so the story you built in your head is I don't know enough about construction to invest in real estate. Now let me tell you guys the story. Years ago on my first rehab, right? I was just figuring it out, whatever. So I had some electrical work done. I had an inspection, and the electrician, I wish I can remember his name because I want to tell everybody. When looking back, this guy was so horrible. And he took advantage of me. He tried to take advantage of me, but whatever. It's good that I don't remember his name. I had an inspection, and the inspector was like, okay, everything is here, but you need to put putty packs on your fixtures because it was a duplex, and in order to prevent the fire from spreading from one unit to another, you have to it's literally like a slab of clay. So these clay, they come in these slabs, and you have to mold them around. It's almost like Play-Doh. You have to mold them around the light fixtures and the light switches before the walls go up. So like just imagine, how you see the light switches like a silver box, right? And then the light on the other side. This is before you put the walls up. So I had to mold them around that, right? And so he's like, you need to put the putty packs on. And so instead of having this electrician come out because he was a nightmare, I was like, I'll do it myself. That's all you got to do. Is just that simple. I just got to go buy the putty packs and put them on there. I can do it myself. And when I tell you, it was so cold, and I had to sit up on the top of a ladder, and I was just putting the putty packs on. And I thought to myself, like, this was dumb. I could have hired somebody to do this. In the meantime, at that time, I used to go and check on my rehabs every single day. And what I learned from that experience is, why am I doing this? Because if something's not right, what am I going to do? I never want to put putty pack. It wasn't difficult, but I never want to do that again. This is not my job. I will pay somebody a couple dollars an hour to do this. In fact, I don't even need to go to the project to check on it. I can pay somebody a couple dollars an hour to go and inspect it and FaceTime me and send me pictures. That was an aha moment for me. Why am I doing this? Why do I feel like I need to sit here and go through all of this and walk through these projects and be checking up on everybody? Because if it's not done right, what am I gonna do? Pull out a hammer? I think not. I mean, my nails ain't done right now. You see all this new growth I got, but no. Y'all want to see the dress I got? This is what I wear. Okay, this is what I wear. I'm not doing it. This is not me. So that let me realize, hey, there is a way that I can do this without knowing construction. I don't need to. I'm not doing this. I don't need to get my nails dirty. I don't need to walk around like, that's my mom's boyfriend's name is Mr. Rodney. I don't need to walk around like Mr. Rodney. He'd do that. He'd be fixing his own properties up, handling plumbing calls, and no, I'm not doing that. And there is a way, and there is a system for doing it. Okay. All right. So do you see how I reframe that? Remember, the chain of false belief is I need to know construction and be handy to invest in real estate. This is why a lot of people don't do it, because this is a good reason why they don't do it. Tara said, I'm CTFU right now. I'm serious. That was a big game changer for me. Like, what? Wow. Like, this is not even a hard job. I'm never doing this. I'm not doing this. No. What am I doing this for? Here's the last one. I'm going to give you one more. And then JD's going to bust in here in a minute. Chain of false belief that keeps people from investing in real estate. I need a lot of free time to run a rehab. People don't think they have enough time. The experience that they may have had that lets them have this false belief is, the reality is, most people who have this belief is they're a control freak. And like me, you always end up figuring things out on your own. When something doesn't go right, you put matters in your own hands. So if that's the way you like to live your life, then you do need time. Because in your mind, you're like, I'm going to have to I need to be able to take this over on my own. And so the story that you tell yourself as a result of this idea that you feel like you got to take things over is, I don't have enough time to invest in real estate. I don't have enough time. That's most of y'all on here. Y'all like, y'all, I know I could figure out the money thing, but I just don't have enough time. I got the kids, I got this, I got But I'm telling you right now, it don't take a lot of your time if you do my framework, which is my contactless construction method that our members get access to. Okay. Now here's the epiphany bridge. This is when I realized I didn't need to have time. This is all around this putty pack issue and all that. When COVID happened, I was pregnant. I found I was pregnant in December of 2019. COVID became like a thing really in February of 2020. Okay. And at that time, I was driving to all my rehabs, driving around, going to all my rehabs, visiting them, and being a control freak that I am every day, 70,000 times a day, going to Home Depot and Lowe's and all of that, running around like a chicken with my head cut off. And then when COVID happened, I was pregnant. And y'all remember, like, we couldn't even touch outside. Like, going outside was like, ooh. Y'all remember how that went down. So I had to have a conversation with my team and be like, listen, I'm pregnant. A pregnant lady can't be in these projects. COVID is running around. And they was like, oh, no big deal. And so we developed a system to where I didn't have to go. And it was like, I could have been doing this the whole time. I don't have to be here. What? No, you don't got to be there. You don't need time. You don't need a lot of time. You don't got to be there. Okay? That's why I moved to California. Because it's like, if I ain't got to be here, then I ain't got to be here. Okay? All right. So, did I convince you guys that real estate was the way to go, and my Better Than Success Real Estate League will help you to solve all of these problems that you have? Did I convince you? Good. Okay. So if I convince you, just for tonight only, I intentionally did this. If those of you are members of if you want to become a member of the Better Than Success Real Estate League, you can take a tour. You'll see all the stuff that we do that helps you immerse yourself in this whole experience. And you can use this code. I'm going to post it. I'm going to type it in here and then pin it to the top. It gives you 50% off our annual membership just for tonight. Use this code at checkout. Nicole 0302. We're not done with this show yet, okay? Go to join BTS. All right, but hold on. Before you go, we got two more things that we need to talk about. So our good deed for the day is we are all going to call an elderly relative and say hello. Someone older. An older person. I know exactly who I'm going to call. Just going to say hello. Have a nice little chit chat. So here, I want to share with you our scripture for the day. Okay. This is the scripture that you all may know and love. I try to use little known scriptures, but I'm always going to try to position it for you in a way that you never thought about before. The scripture for the day is First Proverbs 1. Proverbs 1:1. The Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel. To know wisdom and instruction, to perceive the words of understanding, to receive the instruction of wisdom, justice, and judgment, and equity, to give subtlety to the simple, to the young man knowledge and discretion. A wise man will hear and will increase learning, and a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsels. To understand a proverb and the interpretation, the words of the wise and their dark sayings. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. My whole point, okay. My whole point is saying this. Okay. I'm gonna have to hang up because JD's got to pee. My whole point for saying this, though, guys, is fools despise wisdom and instruction. Think about areas where you don't want to be educated about something, or where you're being willfully ignorant. You're being a fool. So join Better Than Success. Go join BTS. The link is in my bio if you want to get 50% off. Use code Nicole0302. My child wants to pee. Okay, here, look. Tell him. Okay, y'all. So, have to go pee. Okay, bye, y'all. Love y'all. Mwah.